What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lightseeker headquarters. My name is Ben. A little bit of a list there, whatever. But yeah, welcome back to the channel, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the last few videos I did. I did do a featured couple decks videos, deck profiles on Elishi, which was the Storm variant, and I did Tashibra, which was the Dread variant. I couldn't remember. I have several Dread decks, so had to remember quickly. But anyways, today we're going to be looking at another type in the meta, which is the nature deck, which is quite an interesting deck. It's a very it's not an aggro deck, it's more of a defensive wall deck, very similar to, not similar to Mountain, not similar to Tech. It's between Mountain and Dread, I would say, or sorry, Mountain and Tech, I would say. It has a mixture between that, so it's fairly offensive, but it heals, and it also has reducing damage aspects to it. Now, our hero of choice is Treanu, which is the hero of the starter deck, and he's actually pretty good. But his ability, he has I'll just say first, he has unlimited nature or forest, you could say, forest element, which means you can play 2 of 1 per turn. But ability, draw 2 cards, your target heals for 3. If you're in a situation where it doesn't really matter if they heal, drawing 2 cards is pretty solid. But yeah, that's the main reason why 30 hit points, pretty good overall. But anyways, we're going to move on to the deck overview, or deck profile, you could say. Anybody coming over from my other channel, you know I call them deck profiles. But anyways, we're going to move into attack cards. As always, I've been doing attack cards always first. Simple, straightforward. We're actually going to be running 3 copies of Oakthorn Warrior. This card is good, honestly, because it's the element. But also 3 attack, 3 damage, if increased this by 3 if your recipient attacked you last turn. Very good against the Storm variant, because pretty much every single turn, if Storm wants to play around this, they can, but they're going to attack you pretty much every time. That's the main reason why it's in. Pretty much every deck's going to have attack cards, so 6 damage is very easy to hit. And we're playing 3 copies, the max copies you can play. Next up, we have Infected Wasp. Pretty much every deck plays this card. This card's busted. Anyways, we will zoom it up there. Damage is equal to the number of buffs the recipient has in play, which is your opponent plus 3. So if they have 4 buffs in play, dealing 7. Majority of the time, they're going to at least have 1, so this is going to do at least 4. But even 3 minimum, which is not bad, because 0 plus 3 is 3, so it will count. Because it doesn't say X. But this can actually hit for high numbers. If you're playing against Tech, it's going to hit for especially high numbers, because Tech sets up a lot of traps, which are buffs. Sorry for my cough, guys, I'm just in the background. No idea why. Next up, we actually have sort of a bit of a removal, and you need this in this deck just because removing buffs are very key in the game. If we zoom up, are you going to focus? Yes, you are. 3 damage, remove 1 buff. Of the human element, I like to say. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is the animal element. Forgot about that. 3 damage, remove 1 buff. Solid card. We play 3 copies. I mean, it does damage and it removes a buff. Not similar to Shadowy Puppet or Shadow Puppet, but it does damage and it removes 1 less buff. We're getting into our last attack cards. You run 2 Spirit Mob. I mean, this card's really good. If you have more buffs in play than your recipient, this does 6 damage. I mean, you could go down to 1 if you really wanted to, or even 0. This card's just, I mean, this is in between decks for having lots of buffs. I mean, Tech definitely runs the most. I would say Mountain runs the second most. And between Dread and Astral and Nature would be my guess of having heavier plays of buff. But yeah, I mean, it's just a good card, getting 3 damage regardless, so just another attack card. Getting into buffs, what makes this deck actually shine a little bit better is its defend and buff cards. So you get access to this card, which majority of decks get access to reducing damage buffs, but very similar to Bubblefish, but I run 3 copies of these because I found room for it. Reduced damage, Moss Ridge Defender is very good. I mean, it's also the superior element of Treanu, which is really solid because you can only, I mean, you can only play 1 per turn technically, because you can only play 1 of the same card per turn, but it's still pretty solid. But yeah, 3, 2, and 2, which is not. So I mean, you go down reducing damage every turn, but still, I mean, reducing 2 is not even that bad. Healing aspects of this deck, we do run 3 copies of Stubborn Shaman. This card's busted. I mean, healing 4 is solid on the 3rd turn, but you also have ways to increase the 1 and a 2 in this deck, which I'll get into later. But yeah, on the first one, when you play it, you gain 1. When you turn it, you gain 2, and then on the 3rd, you gain 4. So this card's very solid, and at least 1 or 2, but I like 3 in this deck. But yeah, it's debatable. You could cut 1 if you guys want to find space for a thing. Next up, we have Fungal Medium. This card can stay on the field for a little while, and it works because you can use it twice because it's attack ability. So you can defend or attack, so you can heal or attack on each one. You can heal for 4 if you really want to. You can heal for 5, but it does count as an action, which it sucks. If you play it, then next turn it will count as your action for another turn, which kind of sucks, but still, it's a very solid card. Nonetheless, I mean, 2 of minimum. You have a choice of healing or attacking, which is pretty solid. Gives you options. Now, increasing healing, this is what I'm talking about. This card's really good. Flower Garden, increase healing done by whatever corner, and it is clunky corner, so let me just get it in there. Get it focused. It is clunky corner, so therefore, that whenever you activate something that triggers this, so basically, if this triggers a healing prospect, it will turn. That's the only time it's going to turn. But increasing healing done by 2, so now that on the Shaman it's doing 3 on the first one, now 4, and then it's doing 6. So it's a pretty solid card. Another 2 in this deck is Convent Conspiracy. This is another damaging card. I mean, it's pretty solid. I mean, hitting 3, 2, and 2. Pretty solid card. I quite like it as well. I mean, you could go up to 3 if you really want to, but there's a 1 of buff that I run in here instead of a 3rd one of these. So, and that, speaking of it, it's this one right here. This one is actually damage plus healing. On the 3rd corner, you heal for 2 and deal 2 damage, which increase healing by 2 and then deal damage. There's ways to increase damage here, which this one isn't, but this card's pretty solid. I reckon if you do want to cut this and add another 3rd Corvid Conspiracy, you can. I recommend keeping it in there. I personally like it. Now this card's just to add draw support. You can cut this for another Corvid Conspiracy or a Fungal Leecher, but this card I quite like. It's very, very, very good in any situation because any deck's going to be dealing damage to you. And if they do 4 and you have a reducing of 3, you're only going to take 1 damage, plus you get to draw a card, which is very solid. Getting into our defend cards, we run good amount. I don't really particularly run defend cards because majority of buff cards do that for me already, but in this deck I run a larger amount, I should say. This card, very good in general. I mean, it's another buff removal technically, but you can also sorry guys, 2 healing, so once again can trigger with Flower Garden and return any 2 buffs to their owner's hand. So that does not include discard. That is basically on the field. So if you wanted to reset, let's say, a Stomping Shaman, what is it called again? I can't remember. Moss Ridge Defender, reset healing. You can pick those 2 up, play one of them down, and reset the whole cycle. But also get 2 healing at the same time, which is pretty solid, I think. And also, just in a situation where there's a combo on the field where your opponent's there, it has a combo like Stormwall, you can punch that back to their hand, and if they have 0 cards in hand, they can't really play that again, right? So it's in a situation where you can choose 1 from your opponent and 1 from you. So it doesn't really, it's very, in my opinion, I think it's good. You can cut these for something else, but personally, I think for support on all around the field, I just think it's much better. Sorry, my hand in the way. Another thing to reset your buffs is restart up to 2 action buffs. This card's very good, particularly because we run combo buffs in this deck that we want to reset every single time. That's also another way you can pick up your combo buffs in here. But yeah, you can cut this for another card, but I personally like it. I'm actually going to zoom this up for you quickly. But yeah, it's pretty solid personally. I like 1 of it. You can go up to 2 if you really like it, but It's not really particularly needed in this deck if you don't want it. We do run 2 copies of Spore Fear. This card's stupidly broken. Heal equal the number of buffs you have in play. We do play a few buffs, so you can heal, let's say I had 5 in play, you're going to heal 7 and then deal 2 damage to a hero. So it's a pretty solid card. I'll actually zoom that up so you guys can see it. But yeah, I mean, healing for number of buffs you play +2 and then dealing 2 damage to your opponent is always solid. As I've said in many videos, you can only have 5 combo cards and they all have to be unique. So I like to divide the diversity a little bit to like healing, defending, attacking, a little bit, and also recovery, which I like to find like recycling, in my opinion. But one that we do run is, this is a mid-range for me, 8 healing and deal 5 damage to your target for 2 forest and 1 human. If I'm getting these elements wrong, please tell me, guys, because I know the elements. I'm just having a brain fart during the video, and I'll probably look back at this and think that, wow, why did I say that? But anyways, if you guys know them, just put it in the comments. I don't mind. But 8 healing, deal 5 damage to your target. It's a pretty solid card, in my opinion. I mean, healing not only for 8, and boosting it with Flower Garden can potentially be 12 if you have 2 out. Also 5 damage to your opponent while healing at the same time. Pretty solid, in my opinion. Like I said before, there is stuff that removes you take damage from if you attack your opponent. This doesn't count if you attack your opponent because it is a rotation of a buff. So dealing 14 damage on a rotation is not too bad. So I do run one of these. It is very situational though, because there is stuff like Thunder Slug, Shadow Puppet, Reckless Spirit in the mirror match that do get rid of this. So you could run an attack card instead, but it does not matter to me. Next up, we do run Beast Control in this deck. This card is another one, rotation on and activating ability for 7. This card's pretty good in my opinion, also because it's only 2 animal elements, sorry, which is very solid in my opinion. You could cut this for another card. Actually, I'm going to focus this up for you guys. And it's differential, you could say. Another combo card we have is Ambush. This card is very, very good. Not only if you're hitting 7 damage for 2, which is not terrible, but increasing this by 6. The last played card was a defend card. This card can be cut for many different things. I just run it because in a situation where I need to hit 13 damage, it's very likely at the end of the game I'm going to play this card. You can play it early and deal 7. That's not an issue. But dealing at the end game when they're starting to heal up, with defend cards and trying to stay in the game, this is where you want to play this card. Which this can be changed out for a lot of things, especially Vine Lash. I feel like you can change that out for a lot of things, and I guarantee you this deck is going to be scrapped up a little bit when I change it a little bit, but this is my first run through with it. This card's pretty busted in my opinion. Regrowth, 5 healing, move 2 discarded buffs into play. So that could be like a combo, Shamans, the Moss Ridge Defender, Flower Garden, many different things, anything you want into play, plus 5 healing. But yeah, that's my deck for Nature on my hero Treanu. I find it's a pretty solid deck. If you guys have any suggestions, as of always, just please leave them in the comments. I am more than willing to accept them. I'm not one of those people that are just going to remove your comment if I don't feel like it's right. I'm always going to read them. Or if you guys want to send me an email, it will be in the description. But anyways, I'm Ben from the Lightseekers headquarters. And I'll see you guys soon.